Good evening. I'm Mark Baer, your host tonight. I'm Executive Director of the Museum of Monterey. I'm also on the board of Access Monterey Peninsula. And my guest tonight here on Your Town is Dr. Betty Sproule. She has a new book, The Stuff Cure. We're going to talk about that. I have Anna Marie Stanton with us tonight also. We're going to talk about the fabulous Marianda event this spring. And Thomas Hood, architect, is going to be talking about some of the new exhibits at the Museum of Monterey. So let's start. Welcome, Betty.
Thanks, Mark.
And so let's go right into the book. How did this come about?
Well, The Stuff Cure, How We Lost 8,000 Pounds of Stuff for Fun, Profit, Virtue, and a Better World, is a joint project with my husband. And it tells our journey of having the blessings of abundance that became a burden. We just had too much stuff in our house, and when we anticipated a move, we realized that that stuff became very expensive. So we developed a method. It's really worked for a lot of our friends, and we call it the Stuff Cure.
Okay, well, let's go back to where were you when you were, what was the circumstances and the size of the house you were getting out of and the scale of the move?
We lived in St. Louis, Missouri before we moved to Pacific Grove, California. And our house in St. Louis was a Meet Me in St. Louis house, enormous, 6,800 square feet, 7 fireplaces, and lots of room for stuff. So when we decided to move to a cottage in Pacific Grove, we knew that all that stuff was not going to make the trip.
Okay, and then so let's talk process. What'd you do?
Well, that's basically what the book is about. It's specific tips for how to get rid of stuff, and we call that unstuffing your life.
Okay, and so what was what was the experience like? Because you know, I always seem to upsize. Even though I get rid of a lot of stuff each move, it always seems like I have more when I get there.
You're not alone, Mark. All of us who've had the blessings of an abundant life accumulate stuff because we find it easier to pile it on than pass it along. But we reframed the idea of our stuff and how our stuff brought meaning to our life. So we said there's 4 benefits of living an unstuffed life: fun, profit, virtue, and a better world. So fun, going through your stuff, playing with your things before you share them with somebody else, really can be a lot of fun. Profit, we estimated we saved $10,000 in moving costs. We got write-offs on deductions. We were able to benefit charities that we supported. So that was the profit for us. Virtue, we developed a spirit of generosity. Having stuff in our closet not helping anybody wasn't really beneficial to us or our feeling of how we could be better citizens. And the better world is really a more sustainable future. Without quite so much stuff and taking so much from the planet and sharing what we have with others, we are really contributing to a more sustainable.
So let's talk about the psychological process of letting go, because, you know, I mean, this all sounds good, but your stuff's your stuff.
Your stuff is your stuff. And the reason our stuff clings is it represents the story of our life. When we see these objects, it reminds us of the time, it reminds us of the people, it reminds us of the relationships. So what we want to do is think about how we trigger those memories and those sentiments. And we don't have to use our stuff to trigger that. So for example, I have fond memories of my grandmother's home, and in fact I for a long time had many of her possessions because I didn't want to ever forget my grandmother. But I realized that if I had a photograph of her home with the things in their own context, that was really more meaningful to me than having all of this bulky stuff to remind me. So we try and have a few things that we call outrageously sentimental to remind us of what our stuff means to us.
Okay, now what about, so the furniture, where did all the furniture go?
Well, we donated it to many worthy causes. We were blessed with a big house that needed lots of furniture, but now without so much need for furniture, it would have made our current house look cramped to have all that furniture in it. So we donated it to local agencies that could help people that were in need of furniture. Okay,
so did you understand what moving to Pacific Grove meant? I mean, because kind of moving to Pacific Grove kind of requires this, because you're going small no matter what you do.
Yes. For many of us, as we age and we no longer have a family living at home or quite so much need for space, going smaller is part of our future. And so we did understand that a big house was part of our past life, but we were preparing for our future. And so we wanted to say, what do I need for the present? What do I need for the future? Most of our stuff represents our past, and that's the stuff we could get rid of.
So this is, just to describe this, we're really talking about a psychological makeover here, is what this book is. We're not talking about things. We're talking about psychology here, by and large.
For many people, it is a psychological makeover because they have to think about it in a new way. And reading the book helps you think about it in a new way. But there is a physical dimension. You have to move the stuff along. And to facilitate that moving along, we recommend having a staging area. We call it our unstuffing staging area. So you create a space, a physical space in your house or your garage or your attic, where you're going to put stuff that you think is a candidate to get rid of. And you move it there just as soon as you identify this is something that could go. But once it's in that unstuffing staging area, you let it sit there for a while so you don't have regrets about getting rid of things or being too abrupt. But after it's sat there for about a month, then you say, okay, it's time to make a run to the Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul or call Hope Services to come pick it up and then get rid of it, move it on out of your life. Okay.
Now, as an author, I know you always want to broaden your audience here. So let's just talk about living with too much stuff, period. Let's not talk about the moving or, or anything else, because living minimally is its own virtue. A clean space is its own virtue. So what do you recommend just for people to clean their space out?
We recommend on an ongoing basis to live with just the right stuff. So we're not about being minimal, we're having the stuff you need for the life you want to live right now. So we say, what do you keep? You keep 3 types of things. Things that are currently functional for your life right now. Things that you're using on a day-to-day basis. The second thing are things that are really valuable. And we define really valuable worth more than $500. That would be an asset that you want to keep because it represents something that you own and has resale value. And you might want to keep it because it's currently functional or sentimental or just because it does have value. And then the third thing you keep are things that are outrageously sentimental. We have found that when we went through our stuff, everything had some degree of sentiment to it. But when we lined it all up, like our wedding souvenirs, we had tens, hundreds of wedding souvenirs, and they weren't all that sentimental. So we say, when you have a category of things, look for that category and keep just the few that really work. It's estimated that women in the U.S. have 10 pairs of jeans, but they only wear 4. So we say get rid of 10 to 30% of your stuff at any given pass, because if you try and get rid of too much at one time, you'll have regrets. But if you have 10 pairs of jeans, you're wearing 4, pick out 1, 2, or 3 that maybe you could pass on to the Goodwill.
So do you talk about, do you think about like spring cleaning or things? Because I'm not moving anywhere, but I'm liking the idea of sizing down and getting only, especially at this time of life, you want just what has the essence. You want things that have meaning to you, that resonate to you, and not a lot of everything else you can clear out.
Exactly. It's an ongoing journey to have the stuff you need for your future. And a lot of people think about some big work day in the future when I'm finally going to get that garage cleaned out. But we recommend a little bit at a time every day. The story is told of the old woman who only combed her hair once a month, and she thought it was so awful she didn't imagine how anybody could do it every day. So when you keep up with your stuff, you see things, you move them immediately to that unstuffing staging area. That's what we recommend.
Okay, so I'm going to just hold up the book one more time.
Okay.
The Stuff Cure. You can go to Amazon, you can get this, that's the easiest place.
And you can buy it on Kindle so you don't have more stuff. But
buy it on Kindle, you can have more stuff. So now let's move on to, what do you do in real life now? Besides writing books, what's your day-to-day job? Because you're a pretty interesting person.
Yes, I work for a consulting firm in Palo Alto, but live on the Monterey Peninsula. And with this, now that I've been cured with a stuff cure, one of the benefits is you have a little more time. You're more efficient. And so I found that as I moved through the stuff cure, I had more time in my life to do some volunteer activities. So I volunteer on the Monterey Peninsula as well.
Okay. And now let's talk about the narrative and how you got involved with that. And I'm going to let you tell the story.
All right. One of my volunteer activities is to work with a group of citizens who support a document called a National Strategic Narrative. A National Strategic Narrative has a website. It's nationalstrategicnarrative.org, where you can read a copy of the document I'm going to talk about. But I had an opportunity to hear the author of that document, Captain Wayne Porter of the U.S. Navy, speak at a World Affairs Council luncheon, and I was very impressed with what he had to say. And when I read the document, I became even more impressed because it's really a view for the future of the U.S. and it's focused on the priorities that I believe this country should embrace. And the three priorities that it focuses around are prosperity, security, and values. It's designed to lead to a sustainable future. And so that document is inspiring to me to think about how we can go beyond our current situation to a really more sustainable, productive future.
And this is how where Betty and I met. And again, I've had Wayne Porter on this show. I met Wayne, I heard him speak, but I also read the document before I met Captain Porter. And it's a very no-nonsense, non-political, I would say, beyond political, a way to redefine who we are as Americans, what our purpose is, and what it's about, and to ask the really big questions. And I found it both profound, poetic, stimulating, and as a tool. A tool for creativity, innovation, and forward thinking.
Absolutely, Mark. And every conversation I've had with my friends and colleagues about a narrative is always a productive look to the future. It's beyond partisan politics. It's beyond the burdens of kind of the old way of doing things or thinking about it. It's a forward-looking approach. And what I find interesting is how people have been inspired by this document to take specific actions that are aligned with the principles of prosperity, security, and values. So, for example, the Salinas Innovation Cluster is a project here in our area with precision agriculture and aquaculture that implements the concepts that are outlined in the narrative.
And so one of the things that I've been most interested in to do at the Museum of Monterey is what I've been calling the Creativity and Innovation seminars. And what these are is, again, TED conference started here, TED conference left here, and we're looking for a new way to have these people with global ideas, that are of local people with global ideas come together and meet each other, share their ideas, pollinate, and not necessarily looking for an answer to something, but to just involve with the creative process with each other. And so what we, and Betty and I have been working together on this project, and it's going to be a group of 30 people, and they'll come together from various disciplines. They'll go on camera, they'll talk about who they are, what they do, how the, and again, using this document as a starting point, how this document has inspired them or how they found it helpful or how it's shaded their thinking. And then we're going to listen and then put these people together in groups of 5 or 6 to then talk with each other, find out what each other is thinking, listen to this. We'd like some kind of performance piece, whether it's muralists or something visual to see what's being created at the moment. And then in an evening event, Captain Porter is going to speak and give his view of this, and then the people are going to discuss what happened in that day with what their take on this idea. And we can come together with many different groups of people with many different ideas as a starting point. But I thought this was a really wonderful document to start this conversation with.
Yes, Mark, I'm excited to participate in this and excited by your creativity and how you use the Museum of Monterey as a venue, a neutral ground, if you will. Maybe I should even call it a sacred space where people can come together, express themselves in creative ways, bringing the range of skills and approaches that they have to really create the future for our country. I don't believe that the politicians in Washington have a exclusive right to talk about the future or how we can create the future. So I'm excited to see what we can do here to make our local environment better and to make our national scene more focused on the things we prioritize.
Well, it's really, I think it's important every once in a while to ask the questions who we are. And so kind of in our conversations, we were talking very much what the four freedoms were in the 40s, what the Norman Rockwell imaging of America was. Mm-hmm. And these were, they may look kind of corny now, but they were very, very potent images during World War II. These became really who we identified. And it's really time now to, again, ask those, what is an American? Who is an American? Who are we as Americans? What does that mean? And again, in Captain Porter's piece, the compitare, the Latin word for competition, and defining competition is not a zero-sum game, but a striving together, that it takes two people to make the race, and one must lift the other to have to be achieving for everyone. And I thought that was a very profound thought. And also in this document, a beacon of light in an ever-changing world. And we have the Fresnel lens at our museum, and that lens is going to be our symbol. It's a very vivid symbol of what we're trying to achieve with this. Mm-hmm. So this will be, so anybody in the audience that's hearing us have this conversation, if you want to contact me or contact Betty, go to express the website one more time.
The website for the narrative is www.nationalstrategicnarrative.org. It's all one long word. You can also search under National Strategic Narrative, and it will lead you to the website.
Okay, and then I can be found at the museumofmonterey.org. So if you're interested, please contact me, because again, it's not about us. It's really about bringing people together and let's see what's going to happen. Yeah,
bringing people together, being creative together, coming up with some solutions for a bright future.
It's all about the surprise. So anyway, one last time. Here's the book. Go buy the book.
Or order it off of Amazon or Kindle or at your favorite bookstore.
Okay, and we'll be right back.